Good morning to you. The last video today I am going to bring from the poetry called Cold Within. It's written by James Patrick Kenny. 2 videos already sent to you. Now the last video I am going to present here and give the more explanation of the last stanzas. That is the 6th, 7th and 8th stanzas. Let us see what does it says that previously we saw that about the poor man and rich man story. Now we'll see the 6th stanza says about the black persons, how he remains here. Let me read the stanza and I will try to explain about this. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his sight, and for all he saw in his stick of wood, and was a chance to spite the white. So here, 6th stanza, the black man's face looks revengeful. He was thinking to take the revenge on these white persons because he was humiliated because of his color, so that he could take, his intention is to take the revenge on this person. Now the black man's face looks revengeful, and the only thing visible to him in his stick is a chance to harm the white man. So he was nothing else. He is thinking about that. The black person is already understood that this first lady, one who saw him, she is thinking about that whiteness of the skin. Since I am a black, seeing me, she did not put her logo into the dying fire. So that's why he was so much angry and revengeful, and he wanted to hit her. So this stanza that indicates that the revengefulness of this black person. Now the 7th stanza will see the last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain, and giving only to those who give, and was how he played the game. That means the last man, he is thinking of the 6th person. He is thinking of what? The last man of this lonely group does nothing except something for his benefits. He is thinking of his benefits. If he gives something else, he wants to get return. So giving and receiving, the thought he is having. So in that way, the last man of this lonely group does nothing except thinking of something else to his benefits. And what rules him? And what rules him is his selfishness. Here rises his selfishness that when he gives only to those who give him something back in return, that he thinks about that. Here rises in this 7th stanza the selfishness that arises in his mind. Because why should I give? If I don't get any benefit from this person, then why should I put this logo into the dying fire? If I put this logo into the dying fire, if it gives here warmth to these persons, in return what I am going to gain? What I am going to gain from them? So this thing he is thinking about that. That's here rises that thought of the selfishness. This person becomes more selfish about this. So that is the thing that, as a conclusion, the 8th stanza, let us see, their logs held tight in death's still hands, and was proofs of human sin. They did not die from the cold within, they died from the cold without. Here, the 8th stanza, the conclusion, James Patrick Kenny, that conclusion he makes here, and tells that their logs being held tight in their hands, they invited to death. Because nobody put the logo into the dying fire, everybody became the selfish. Everybody was, they were fighting with each other without fighting outside. So in that way, so nobody put the logo into the dying fire. So that's why they are dying now itself. Their logs being held tight in their hands, inviting death. Everybody is inviting death. Had they put the log of wood into the dying fire, they would have not died. So this was completely obvious that we come to know that because if anyone would have put the log of wood into the dying fire, then all would have, perhaps they all would have lived a life. So in that way, It is nothing but a proof of human sin. They committed sin because they made mistake. It's a human sin, that the tendency to make the sin, tendency to make the mistake, tendency to come across the shortcomings that they did there. The poem ends with a note that these 6 people did not die from the freezing cold. These 6 people, they did not die from the freezing cold, he is telling, but of the cold within in them. They died of cold within. What does it mean? They died of cold within means inner minds, inner souls, and inner thinking. They had the cold war in them. So that's why they were thinking of each other, fighting. So if one is not putting, why should I put? Like that, the selfishness that arises. And each one, they invited their death, holding their sticks tightly instead of putting into the dying fire in order to get the warmth. So that's why he concludes that here poetry, the poet concludes that the poem ends with a note that these 6 people die not from the freezing cold outside, but of the cold within them itself. So this is the explanation and the end of this poetry that we have completed this time, this poetry. Thank you very much.